Hello everybody, welcome along to the 4X Annex. And first of all, before we start, thank you to the people that have added their names to the cross car challenge. We see White Dragon Racing been added since the last video. Now, what we're doing here today is a bit of education, a bit of school. We're actually going to try and find out whether weaving on your warm-up lap, on your rolling starts, actually makes a difference. Now, the way we're going to do that, we're going to do an extreme warm-up lap. So we're going to take a GT3 car to the Grand Course at Virginia International Raceway, a really, really long course, which you can set to have a full-length warm-up lap. So let's see how much we can do on that warm-up lap to actually get the tyres up to temperature. So the first thing we need to do is set a normal lap on a test drive of Virginia, driving fairly fast to see what differences we expect to see on a normal lap when you're racing. After that, we'll then do a series of experiments on a rolling start in an AI race, which we can keep redoing, we can keep skipping back in the same conditions, and we'll try different things. We'll try doing nothing, we'll try weaving, we'll try resting on the brakes, and then we'll try weaving with our foot on the brakes, and just see which of those things makes the biggest difference to the tyre pressures and outside tyre temperatures as well. Now, there's been a lot of talk about tyre temperatures and how getting tyre temperature into the tyre is important. Of course, when you go into the pits, it will show you the surface temperature in degrees Fahrenheit or centigrade across the tyre. For each of your tyres, you'll have an inside, middle and outside temperature. That doesn't really help you know what's going on inside the tyre, which is where apparently you really need the temperature. However, we do know the pressure inside the tyre. Now, if you go back to your physics GCSEs, you'll see that pressure and temperature are related. If we look at this tyre manufacturer's website, they even go on to give us a bit of an idea of how many PSI or pascals you'll get per degree centigrade or Fahrenheit as well. So by that token, maybe if we can increase the pressure inside the tyre, that'll indicate that there's higher temperatures inside the tyre, but at what cost? Are we going to overheat the outside of the tyre or even wear out the tread on our tyre by doing so? Well, let's take to Virginia and find out. Right, so here we are in the paddock, in the garage, looking at the settings for the tyres and that kind of stuff. So you can see on here that each of the tyres has a last hot pressure 24 PSI. That's the starting pressure that we're going to be heading out with. And we have 116 degrees Fahrenheit across the board. So apologies if you normally work in centigrade Celsius. I've got mine set to Imperial. So we're looking at Fahrenheit. But yeah, as we start in the garage, 24 PSI across the board, and the surface temps outside, middle, and inside of each tyre are 116 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll head out, do a normal kind of lap, not too fast, not too slow, come back straight into the pits and just see how those have changed. Okay, let's head out the pits and do a lap. So we see on my dashboard there's green numbers for the tyre pressure, 23.9, 23.9, 24. So that's the PSI. And we keep an eye on that as it goes around. As we said, the PSI, the pressure inside the tyre, should change with the temperature inside the tyre. So that's how we're going to know whether the tyre temperature is going up. So you see it's going up slightly. We're already up to 24.1 at the back and 24 at the front. Let's give the car a bit of stick. But rather than watch me do this whole lap and talk to you, we'll skip to the end and see what the temperatures say there. Okay, we come around to the end of this lap now, and we're going to pull into the pits. We see the tyre pressures have gone up from 24 to close to 25 on just one lap of driving around. Not absolutely on the limit by any stretch, but not super slow either. And we come into the pits and just see what the garage says.
Box in 320 metres. 100 metres. 50 metres.
Okay, so we're back in the garage now. You see I've literally just stopped. We'll go to the garage, go to the chassis, Yeah, go to chassis, tyres and aero, sorry. And we see that those times, those pressures have stuck. So we've gone to 141, 152, 157, those kind of numbers. So we're well above 150 on the surface. So we have got some surface temperature in the tyres, as you'd expect by doing a lap. We've lost a little bit of tread, but not a lot. And then, of course, this is what we're interested in. So the pressures have gone up. So that has recorded. So just driving along, we see that the pressures, the temperatures do change, and these lost hot pressures do correlate with what we see on the dashboard of the BMW as well, which is going to be a great indicator when we do some work on a warm-up lap. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come out of this session and I'm going to load up an AI race with a warm-up lap around the same circuit and see if the pressures do change by coming straight into the pits at the start of the race and just see if it's recorded anything other than the 24 psi and the 116 Fahrenheit that it says on here. Now you may be thinking, well, we know the tyre temperatures change. We know that the pressures go up as you're driving. But the debate is about whether that still happens before the green flag on a rolling start on your warm-up lap, on your lap to the grid. Okay, so we're setting up the single race AI race now. So we're doing a rolling start, of course, and making sure that short parade lap is not ticked. We want to do the full parade lap, give us the best chance possible of generating some heat in the tyres. If it doesn't happen around Virginia Grand Course on a full parade lap, it's unlikely to happen anywhere. Okay, so here we go. We're in an AI session. Just skipped it to qualifying. I'm going to let the other drivers qualify, and I'm going to stay right at the back because I want to do the outlap my way, the warm-up lap my way before the green flag. And we're going to do that 4 times to see what the difference is. The first time we're going to do it, we're going to drive around doing absolutely nothing to put any energy or heat into the car. So we're just going to drive around and just see whether anything changes from the baseline. The next one we're going to do, we're going to try weaving side to side, try and get a lot of grip heat into the tyres as we're driving along down the straights through the corners. We're going to give the car a bit of stick, see if that generates any heat either in the tyres or increases our tyre pressure, which means heat inside the tyre. Third time, we're going to drive, we're not going to weave, but we're just going to drag the brake the whole way around just to try and generate some heat in the brakes, which could perhaps then soak into the tyres, increase the pressure in the tyres, but might not affect the surface temperature of the tyres. And then finally, we're going to give the car a lot of stick, so we'll do another warm-up lap where we weave, we brake, we put as much energy into the tyres as possible, kind of like we did with that baseline lap around the track, and see if we get anywhere near that on a pace lap. If none of these generate any sort of heat in the tyre, on the surface of the tyre, or a change in PSI, it means it's not worth doing at all. If they do change the PSI or the surface temperature, then maybe it is worth doing. It's just whether it's worth the risks. We're going to see. We'll cut to that when I've let these guys do the qualifying session, because I don't want to do it. I want to make sure that they actually get a time in. And we'll do the first of those laps where we just drive around nice and gently and see what changes are made to the tyre temperatures and pressures on a normal lap. Okay, so here we are. The virtual guys have set a lap time. It was just their out laps, but I don't care. That's what they're going to have to qualify with. The main thing is that I'm last on the grid. They're already gridded up, so we're going to join them. And like I say, for this first time, we're just going to drive around really gently behind the pack, try and put as little heat and energy into the car as possible, and just see at the end of the lap, when we pop into the pits, what the difference is. So let's join the grid, and then we'll skip to the end of this lap.
P8, the air temp is 90 Fahrenheit.
We'll skip to the end of this lap and see what the temperatures are like. So we see, of course, we start with the 24 psi, or 23.9 as it's dropped to, that we had in the pits. Right, fast forward, and I'll see you at the end.
Number 5.
Right, the end of the lap.
Ready, watch for the lights.
And instead of watching for the lights, we're going to pop into the pits and just see what's happened.
Go, go, go. Black flag. We'll need to pit to serve the penalty. All right, Damo, 15 minutes left. That's 15 minutes.
So we see that on the dash, the tyre pressures are still around the 24. So I put as little into the car as I possibly could Right, we'll get out and have a look at the stats. Okay, straight onto tyres and aero. We obviously can't click to edit the setup. So, the temperatures are still shown at 24 psi. Made a very, very small amount of difference. And across the surface of the tyres, there's a little bit of heat in there. So no difference to the pressures, which of course would indicate a difference to the internal temperature of the tyre, but a little bit of surface temperature. Right, let's go back and try that again. So at the top here, on an AI race, you can click, and now we get to grid again. So this time, it's all about weaving. Okay, so we'll try that again. We're at the back of the grid again, and we're going to try weaving beyond the grid. As we go around, let's see what temperature that puts in the tyres. So again,
you need to catch up to the guy ahead.
I'll do some weaving. Try and get the car sliding a bit as well. Try and get some heat in here. But I won't subject you all to this whole lap. We'll come back at the end of the lap and just see what difference it's made. We're halfway around the lap now. My arms are aching so much. I don't know if I'm putting energy into the car or just into my shoulders. I'm working this car hard.
Car number 5.
Yes, Jim, we will. But we can see that there is a bit of difference in the tyre pressure. I mean, we started at 24, and the fronts are up to about 25. The back's 24.5. It's not making a lot of difference, but it is wearing me out. Right, let's see what it is at the end of the lap. Right, we're coming to the end of this lap now. We've done everything we could to try and get some heat into these tyres by weaving.
Okay,
and
Demo,
the rears
get ready.
aren't showing the tyre pressure even up to 25 yet. But we'll pop into the pits.
Floor it. 15 minutes remaining.
You know what?
15 minutes to go.
We're even going to weave in the pits to try and keep that temperature in there. See what it comes out at. Whew, serving a penalty. Right, let's have a look. Okay. Straight out. Straight into the garage. And we see, as we saw on the dash, the front's just over 25, but the rears haven't got to 25 yet. We have got a lot of surface temperature, up to 185, 187 on that front left. Not so much in the rear because I wasn't able to really kind of do any wheel spins and that kind of thing to get a lot of heat in, but still. So, we see a lot of surface temperature and a lot of wear on the tyres as well. So, especially on the inside of the tyres, the outsides are 97, 98, 98. At the front, don't look too bad, but on the inside of these tyres, we've lost 16% on the warm-up lap. So, a lot of heat's gone into the tyres, we've scrubbed a lot of the material off them as well. Hasn't made a great deal of difference to the pressure. So that was weaving. We'll reset that again. Let me get my breath back. It's a bit of a workout. Let me get my breath back. And then we'll do the same thing again, but we'll be dragging the brakes. Okay, let's do this again. And this time we're going to drive around the whole circuit, not weaving, because we don't want to be doing any of that. All we're looking at this time is brakes. So the whole time I'm driving, I'm going to be controlling my speed using the brake. So I'm going to have more throttle than I need, but I'm going to be holding the car back on the brake. We'll see what difference that makes. So again, I'm not going to subject you to this whole lap. You see, I'm flat out on the throttle and put as much energy into the car as I can and then turn it on the brakes, unless I have to then lift off just to get around a corner. You hear the brakes are squealing at the moment because they're cold. In theory, as we go around the lap, that will stop happening, but we'll check in at the end and see what difference this has made. So I'm not going to be weaving, remember. I'm keeping it as smooth as I can do. Just controlling it on the brakes. Okay, we're coming up to the halfway point of the lap again. Pleased to say that although my shoulders aren't quite so tired, my legs are a little bit tired, but it's not too bad. But look at the tyre pressure. The tyre pressures of the rears are well over 25 and the fronts are actually already over 27. Now that tyre pressure, remember, indicates that there's temperature inside the tyre that's inflating those tyres. So running on the brakes here, and you'll have seen I've done very little in the way of weaving. Well, not weaving at all, just trying to keep the steering angle minimum. And the tyre pressures are rocketing. Right, we'll go to the end of the lap, just like this. See what the results are. As we come to the end of the lap, being flat out on the throttle for this whole lap with the brakes on, you can see smoke pouring out the back of my car. We've put so much energy into the engine, it's actually blown up. This is how extreme we're going here. Nevertheless, we're going to go into pits and see how the tyre temperatures and pressures have changed. We see on the dashboard that they're really, really high. So I'll have a look when we get into the pits. Coming in here now, and again, we're not really worried about this pit lane speed limit. But we're nursing a broken BMW. And we'll see what the temperatures are. So, like I say, the dashboard pressure, close to 30 PSI now. Right. Let's get out of the car. Straight into the garage. Okay, so the surface temperatures 140 to 165 on the fronts, and on the backs 136 to 151. So they're sort of okay. Of course, we've got rid of very little tread because we weren't weaving. So the tyres there look like they're in great condition. They've got loads of tread. The temperatures are okay. The pressures are super high. So 31 PSI at the front and 28 PSI at the back. Okay, so we know what's happened there. We've got a lot of heat into the tyres, and that's great. We haven't worn the tyres out. So at the moment, driving along with your brakes looks like a much better solution than weaving. However, be careful you don't blow your engine by putting that much strain into it. Right, so the final thing we're going to do is do a combination of the two, weaving and dragging the brakes, and just see what sort of difference that makes. Okay, here we go. We'll do a combination of the two and see if we actually end up in a better place than just brake dragging. I'm not sure we will. So a little bit of brakes, a little bit of weaving. Now you know the drill by now. I'm not going to subject you to the whole warm-up lap. We'll go back at the end and see what the results are. Okay, comes to the end of the lap now. We've been doing a little bit of both. We see the tyre pressures haven't really changed that much. We haven't been able to get enough heat through the brakes. We'll come into the pits and see what the results are. Right, straight out of the car and straight into the garage. There we go, so we've got plenty of tread left. So although we were weaving a bit, it didn't really make that much difference. The PSIs haven't really increased too much. And the temperatures on the outside of the tyres hasn't really increased too much. So, nowhere near as good as the Brake Dragon, although this time we weren't under threat of blowing up the engine. But that's over such a long warm-up lap that if you're trying to do that kind of thing over the last couple of corners coming into the start of a race or on a short track, it's just not going to make any difference at all. And no difference at all. So what we'll do, we'll come out, we'll crunch those numbers again, and then decide what the best thing to do is going forwards. Well, there we go. We've tested it as best as we possibly can and seen that weaving doesn't really seem to do a lot apart from wear your tyres out, whereas having some heat in the brakes that can permeate through to the rest of the wheel and into the tyre will actually increase your tyre pressure, which indicates an increase in core temperature. Really interesting that. Now, this was of course just done on an AI race. I don't know 100% what's going to happen in real races, but with a car that has the PSIs on the dash like that BMW, really helps you to understand what the temperature and pressure is inside your tyres. You still don't really know what the temperatures are on the outside of your tyre until you come into the pits. But too much tyre temperature on the outside can just wear you out. It doesn't really help. You need the temperature on the inside. So, I think in summary, weaving's not doing a lot, but being on the brakes as you're driving along seems to work. However, you're putting your engine under a lot of strain, so do not overdo it. I mean, this was an extreme example. There aren't many tracks like the Virginia International Raceway Grand Circuit, but there aren't many outlaps like that. But a little bit of that on your warm-up lap, if it's a decent warm-up lap, a little bit of holding your brakes will probably help a little bit. Weaving probably won't. But if you're on a really short warm-up lap, or even just a shorter run to the line, some tracks will only do a few corners, really doesn't seem to be much to do there, much change in the pressures or the temperatures. All you're doing is risking having a collision or spinning. If you're trying to weave and play with your brakes, not only do you risk hitting someone else, which has happened to me a couple of times, you also just risk spinning on your own and look like an absolute fool.
Catch up to car number 5.
Okay, so this time we're going to weave around behind the pack. We're going to drop back every now and again. Well, there we go. If you found this video entertaining or educational and it's helped you out, then please do give the video a like. And if you like this sort of stuff, as well as racing, I do race quite a lot on here as well, then please do subscribe to the channel, and then you'll see a notifications bell there as well. If you click all on that, then you'll know when I go live or put a new video out, which is great for me, great for you. But in summary, I think when I'm doing warm-up laps in the future, if it's a very short warm-up lap or just a few corners, I won't bother doing anything. If it's a fairly long one, then maybe I'll rest my foot on the brake or try and get some heat into the brakes, which can permeate through to the wheels and tyres. But weaving, it's just not worth the risk. You risk going off, you risk hitting somebody else. I just wouldn't do it. And finally, before I go, of course, if you want to take part on the Cross Car Challenge, look out for the hashtag Cross Car Challenge, and look out for the video as well, which explains what you need to do in a GT4 car around Alton Park to get your name up on the board as well. Hopefully I'll see you up there. But until next time, have a great week or weekend, whatever it is you're going to do, and I'm going to leave you with a couple of videos that I think you're going to want to watch.